Hi, I'm Lily, I'm 15.
I'm Oliver, I'm 16.
I'm Liv, I just turned 17.
My name's Phil Opoku-Gyimah, and I'm also known as Lady Phil.
I'm Michael.
I'm Sue Sanders.
I am the co-founder and executive director of UK Black Pride.
I used to be an actor, but now I'm in the House of Lords.
I'm the chair of Schools Out and LGBT History Month.
So, Lily, when did you realise that you were LGBT plus?
I asked my mum to come up into my room. I said, I like girls, not boys. And she was like really excited about it, I think. And then a few minutes after, I told my dad when he had to process it a little bit, and he's completely fine with it.
I came out over 25 years ago. I come from a very strict Christian background, so letting my mother and father know was probably the worst sin that I could have done. My mother was absolutely distraught. She didn't speak to me. I also lost friends. So it was a difficult time of feeling quite lonely and isolated.
I first told my mum, and she told me that she'd always known that I was gay. And then I made the decision to just post about it on Instagram and tell literally everybody I knew. And loads of people being like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy for you, this is amazing. But then a lot of people also being like, oh, that's, like sort of treating me differently.
I think you are incredibly brave because you throw the information out there. And that takes real courage. I didn't have that pressure of worrying about Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
It took a long time for me to sort of come out to myself in a sense. And what I knew about lesbians wasn't particularly wonderful because there wasn't that diversity of knowledge about lesbians at that time. When I came out at college, I came out because I was so tired of people assuming that I was heterosexual.
I didn't explicitly come out with a label. I just told them that I liked girls. I didn't say I don't like boys or whatever, because I just feel like there's so much pressure on young people to label themselves if they act or feel a different way. It's just who I am. And my family see it like that. They don't see it as I am any different.
You don't just come out once.
Yeah.
You come out a lot of times.
Every time you meet a new person, you have to decide whether, do I want to tell them this? Are they going to accept this? Because it can sort of change their judgment on you from when you first meet them.
How different do you think things are now to how they were when you were my age?
It was completely illegal to be gay. You had no protections. You could be sacked. You could be kicked out of your family, your home.
Back in the day, there was a lot of discrimination, not just around homophobia or biphobia, but also racism. So I was not just dealing with the issues of coming out, but I was dealing with the issues of being a young woman who was Black, who also identified as a lesbian.
I was on BBC TV in a soap opera called EastEnders, and I was in it for 3 years playing a gay man. And there were questions in Parliament. They said the show should be taken off.
Section 28 was a piece of law which said you can't promote homosexuality, the concept of LGBT people as being pretended family. So lots of schools didn't mention LGBT issues at all. It wasn't until 2003 that law got stopped. And that's why we set up LGBT History Month, because we wanted to celebrate who we were after that terrible time.
There was a lot of stigma, there was shame, but also culturally, being from an African family, there are laws in my country, which is Ghana, which criminalizes same-sex relationships. That's why I think my parents couldn't and didn't want to understand.
Had I have been who I am in the past, I probably would have been too scared to say anything.
I wanted everyone to know, but back then I wouldn't have wanted everyone to know because I would have worried about how it would have affected my life.
It makes me really angry to see that the LGBT community was treated so poorly in the past, because it's such a small part about a human being, the gender that you like.
Sometimes I will sit there and be like, I am so lucky. But then it's kind of sad in a way, because it's like, I shouldn't have to feel lucky for
Exactly
being
that.
accepted.
Yeah.
Even though a lot has changed, there are still people who are very negative towards Black Lives Matter, the LGBT community. And really, it's a bit disappointing to think that people still haven't moved on from old ways.
In the United Kingdom, it's still difficult to turn round to family and friends because sometimes we worry about what they will say. But the most important thing, when I look down over the thousands and thousands of years of history, of people who were lesbian and gay and bisexual and trans and different, they became themselves, and becoming yourself without any pressure from anyone is so important.